everybody out there in comic book land? My name is George Serrano, a.k.a. The Don, and if you're listening to this, you could only be here for one reason, and that's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you by ComicBook Clique, and as you know, I am never alone. Sir, please introduce yourself.
I'm the next brand new Robin you didn't ask for, Gregory Thomas, a.k.a. GT Rebirth.
GT Rebirth is here in studio, and every single time he comes here, we are just adorned with moment after moment after moment, which is apropos for this episode because we decided to go back in time. We decided to pull up our magic TARDIS, get it inside of our DeLorean, and we're going to go and find out what are the 10 best moments from comic book movies in history. I mean, this thing goes back how far? What? The Spirit?
Oh,
how far are we going with it?
We don't talk about The Spirit. I saw that movie.
There's a lot out. The Lone Ranger. We scoured, all of these superhero films, these comic book movies from different studios and with different characters, different moments, fight scenes, or just heartfelt moments, and we decided to whittle them down all the way to 10. There's so many, but me and GT Rebirth have decided to do our list in secret. I have no idea what list this man has cultivated.
There was no collaboration or collusion, nothing.
I feel like there's a bunch of Jared Leto on his list, but I can't prove it. We're going to find out in a bit. Hopefully.
How would you accuse me of such a thing?
But I guess before we jump into it, did you find it hard at all to...
I got through a couple real fast, and then I kind of hit a wall, and I had to really start to reach deeper into the lexicon. With the battering ram of superhero films that we've gotten in the past few years, it got real easy to stay in a box of current events.
Yes,
and then
definitely.
I found myself going through a lot of that, and then once I reached a bit further back into the movies that I'd seen when you were like 15, 14, that they started coming out with before it got big, I had to rework my list a little bit and just kind of focus everything in. Yeah,
I see that. And I also had this issue where I viewed things differently as a kid.
Certainly.
Certain things were just plain rule of cool.
Absolutely.
Didn't matter if they had comic book continuity, all that kind of stuff. And then as an adult now, as a comic reader, and doing this podcast, I get so much more pleasure out of certain things that probably people wouldn't, because I either thought it was going to happen, or I read it that it happened, or, I was anticipating it. So that splits things up now, because am I going to turn my nose up at the moments that I was hype about as a kid, or do I have to dumb down the moments I have now to reach that just regular childlike level of I guess, wonder with these cool moments?
I mean, when you go back and you want to tell yourself, like, you remember how cool that, like, Catwoman was, but then you have to kind of bring it back and be like, okay, the way they got about Catwoman was kind of stupid.
Right. I'm a huge fan of Batman Returns. Right. But I understand that critically, Batman Returns is not a great movie.
It's kind of a car wreck.
And it doesn't even really have a lot of Batman in it. So there's a lot of that in this list, a lot of things that got close, didn't. And I guess maybe that's how we should start off. We should start off with our honorable mentions, the things that came close, the things that almost broke the barrier in being great.
I thought we were going to do this Watch Mojo style and put those right before the first ones.
Oh, no. My thing with the honorable mentions that I don't like is that they almost make it seem like they would have been close to one.
I
you know what
I'm
saying? And I wanted to be known that these were very great, very, very great. But, they get pushed to the side a bit.
Absolutely.
I will start off my first honorable mention for one of the coolest moments in comic book movie history has to go down as Nightcrawler in the White House.
Really? Okay.
Nightcrawler, just the beginning of X-Men 2, starting off with a character that I felt like a lot of 90s kids knew from either the weirdly complicated video games or the 90s television show. Everybody who's seen the man knows how cool Nightcrawler looked, knows how cool his powers were. And this is the first time we were actually going to see it in action. I think that's Alan Cummings.
Cummings, yes.
And, like, that's an actor.
Incredible Nightcrawler.
Yeah, that's like an actor's actor. And he's choosing to play. I mean, Fox got a lot of heavy hitters.
They did, yes.
But to see him bamfing in and out, taking out the Secret Service, and basically getting to a point of, he was gonna stab the president. Like he almost got the president if he didn't get shot. It reminds you of the things that they talk about in like Suicide Squad or I think in the first X-Men, the idea of like, what if a superpowered person just walked in and did whatever they wanted, and
Yeah.
this is the realization of that, and the fact that that Stryker would use this to try to
Gain
get more
political
legislation. Yeah, like that's so comic books. That's so
Yes.
evil villain, evil scheme. Got to give it to Nightcrawler in the White House.
Okay, so I'll match you X-Men for X-Men because I don't have a particular order to the honorable mentions.
Okay.
Yes, the very first from Days of Future Past Quicksilver scene,
Amazing.
which
Yes.
was just like, you kind of wonder how they're going to do the speed thing because everyone just kind of does it as just a shot in the dark and something happened, random neck snaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I think
they have this really playful moment with their character where you hear whatever music he's playing in his head, which seems to move at the same speed he does,
which
guess.
is a whole nother
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing for another time.
And like, it's not just he's saving Magneto and Professor X and Wolverine from the barrage of bullets they're about to get hit, but now he's just sort of his teenager, just kind of having fun with it.
Definitely, yeah.
It's just like, I'm gonna poke this guy in the face here.
Definitely
I'm gonna
really
have some of these chips.
really playful for a character a lot of people didn't know much about. People
not at
weren't
all.
talking about Quicksilver.
You could say it probably reinvented or invented Quicksilver for the first time for a whole generation of people.
And ironically, I think that the fall of this year that the film comes out is when Flash shows up in on the CW. So this even predates that.
Right.
So we got to see what fast running was in that universe. It was basically him staring directly at the camera as he moves his arms and legs.
Yeah.
But this was something we've never seen before. Like, this was really, really cool.
It was a lot of fun, and like the choice of music was kind of interesting before choices of particular licensed music became a thing.
I think that the best part about it was their decision to then end it with everything then just going into regular real time.
Yes.
I thought that was so cool because again, it was cool to see him do everything in slow motion, but then to our naked human eye, our regular non-mutant eyes, it was cool to see him just snap back to that. So I thought that was really, really good.
Yes, indeed.
I was debating whether or not to put that or the other one on, but I think when push comes to shove, I think the first one barely, beats the second one, the running sequence
Right.
from Apocalypse. Is it Apocalypse?
Yes.
Yeah, Apocalypse.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because Apocalypse is the one who blows up.
I think
the
a lot.
X-Men.
I think it didn't help it that like it felt very samey.
Yeah.
So you're kind of gonna go with the first one.
You knew what he was gonna do. You knew
Yeah.
you've seen this before. So like to tell you the truth, the best part in that is when that beast slows down and you start your mind starts to realize what's about to happen.
Right.
Once you realize it's about to happen, you're just there for the fun. But this was something where we didn't even know what to expect. So we're just at every point that he's pushing somebody a little bit or moving an arm, you're like, what is he doing? And then it all sets up. Amazing. And also sort of kind of better than the Quicksilver we end up getting in Age of Ultron.
Oh, you didn't see that coming?
I don't too much.
That guy was a dick.
Yeah, he was kind of a dick.
I before we keep going, I should establish, but by the way, before people start discussing several scenes and several things, we do have a bit of a rule here of one scene per film.
Oh yeah, that's very important. Yes, only one scene per film, which makes things. I mean, because if not, we'll just be gushing over the best one or two movies that's ever existed.
I'd have filled this thing with at least 5 scenes from Man of Steel. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I guess just from seeing as we've already named we've already named X-Men 2 and we've already named Days of Future Past. Do you have anything else from those two movies in particular that have crossed your mind?
Not necessarily. I think there's a lot of great visuals from the X-Men films, but not a ton that like really resonated with me.
I like Magneto's big hat.
Stuff is
great. I like Magneto's big hat, and I like and I like when he.
I like Magneto moving a bridge.
Yeah, I like him sending the bullet into Mystique's leg, even though Mystique had jumped off like a house,
right,
and stuff like that. I thought that was really, really good there. All right. So you've got 2 X-Men in the honorable mentions. I'll go ahead and say, controversially, the ending of The Dark Knight Rises.
Really?
Yes, I will say that the score, ramping up that whole ramping up thing, the John Blake stuff is a little bit, I'm a little bit conflicted on it, but the idea is cool as hell. The
Right.
idea that this mantle we passed on. What do you push when you push the Robin thing aside? Oh, your name's Robin. You should have just
Sure.
used Robin.
Sure.
The idea that somebody would inherit the entirety of what Batman is, which is the cave. The Commissioner Gordon is there, and he's looking stressed, and he looks and oh wow, someone just put a new bat symbol there. Like we're about to start these adventures right back up again. Alfred's drinking his little, he's having a little Hennessy, I guess, in Paris, and he sees Catwoman and Batman, and Yogi had said something. I don't know if it ever got recorded because it might have been in that episode we were talking about the bat wedding that just got lost to the Phantom Zone, but he was saying that a lot of people who take Batman and want to do definitive runs also want to do definitive ends, like they do deaths of Batman. And if you want to consider that this was Nolan's work, the trilogy, he ended Batman how he felt Batman should be ended. And considering the fledgling nature of trilogies in general, not only superheroes, it was cool to have a bow tied on that.
Right.
And I think if we would have took like a 10-minute, like a, I don't know, 5-year break, I think people would have been all in on a John Blake Batman Nolan trilogy part 2, deal.
So here's the thing: like he ends Bruce Wayne, but not necessarily Batman, because Batman can be anyone. It is simply a symbol.
Right.
You just
as he says, and that's a big part of the trilogy is the idea that this thing is bigger than just me.
Right.
This symbol that I've created.
I had a conversation with my roommate the other day who's a fan of it, but not a fan of that Robin thing.
Okay.
And we had an interesting talk about it because he denotes that he says that they tried to make him his particular Robin, which was Dick Grayson. He says that because on John Blake's badge there is a bit of a winged symbol.
Okay.
That looks like something like the Nightwing symbol.
Oh, all right. So
to which I noted that he's probably an amalgamation of the few of the Robins.
Yeah.
Because, okay, you've got that Nightwing moment because he's got the winged symbol on his cop badge. He finds out who Batman is.
Which is very Blake.
In very Tim Drake way.
Oh, Drake. I said Blake.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, Tim Drake.
He finds out who Batman is on his own in a Drakean, just deductive reasoning of his own. And
I mean, those are the two longest tenured Robins.
Yes. And in a sense,
Dick Grayson and
didn't he come from the Wayne what is it, orphanage?
Yeah.
So he is in his own way a son of the Batman.
Yeah. And same way like Jason, a forgotten son. You know, like someone who has to start from scratch basically and create a identity and choose to want to be good because Gotham is basically,
which is what makes him Robin as much as anything, because he's kind of an amalgamation of all of the characters instead of a particular one.
But it's also cool to think of it as, I mean, if you want,
except for Carrie Kelly, nobody cares.
If you were absolutely, sure that you were never gonna do a Robin, right?
Right.
Like that's on the marquee. Then having him have a sidekick that was in the police force is just realistic, and then having that person have the mantle, because in actuality, like I don't know why Robin was just like, I'll just be Robin. Like Batman's dead, so then Robin's the new. Robin's the new Batman.
Oh, yeah.
Not. I don't have to be Batman to be Batman.
It's just like in Batman Forever, where like there's a Robin suit for no freaking reason.
Yeah.
There was never any plans for a Robin.
No.
Just there's a suit.
He had a helmet. Remember, he had a helmet. They were like,
yeah.
Oh, what's that? That's a Robin. Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll just do it that way. But he went. And then that Hans Zimmer score, bro. And I know you got some Man of Steel stuff on there. I know that with that score in the background. But digga, 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 digga. And then it just.
I read every time what I play every time I read the book.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I think that might be the end of my. Oh no, three. So you're up now.
So for my honorable mention, the second one I got here for me is, particularly speaking, for me it was the biggest moment. Not the biggest moment. One of the bigger moments in the most recent phase we've gone through for the MCU.
Okay.
Which was sort of the introduction of the magic.
Okay.
So one of my favorite scenes to just really play off and be this very fun bit of eye candy is Doctor Strange fighting Caecilius and his groups in the mirror dimension.
Yeah, that was bonkers.
Yeah, the bending of the streets and of the buildings, all the the flashing lights, and then the Ancient One shows up for the fight, and that kind of ends up being the end of her.
Yeah, and her death is gruesome in
Oh
that film.
yeah, she just falls
MC
right through a freaking
glass
ottoman.
Yeah,
Ugh.
and it's like
Thud on the ground.
yeah, it's like it was so fantastical that when they pulled it out of the fantastical and gave us just a regular, realistic sort of kind of death,
It's just a woman hits the ground.
Yeah, it was like it was out of control. But your mind is trying to wrap around the visuals that you see as you're watching that scene.
Yeah.
And for somebody like I was actually having this conversation as well, where it's like we have to put the weight of the MCU on the backs of certain people. Obviously, they're doing it with the original 4 Avengers, but with these guys not being around forever, the fact that they can make Doctor Strange a three-dimensional person, Doctor Strange has such a humongous role in Infinity War, and there's a lot of the reasons why Thanos was kind of stopped in that fight on Titan, and it comes from this. We're supposed to pull from this that this experience, right here. Where he had to lose somebody close to him because he was just starting out, and that there's way bigger evils in here. Yeah. I think
Strange is the only one who can really defend himself from Thanos.
Yeah,
in that entire movie, like everybody else is just trying to like not get hit or deflect hits, or
And it's also the idea that everybody else sort of kind of, and even though he did as well, everybody else is sort of kind of volunteering for their lot, right? Like Spider-Man, I want to make New York City better, my neighborhood, all that kind of stuff. Tony Stark, I want to make the world better. Captain America, I want to make America better. But like Doctor Strange is reality. Like he doesn't have a choice in this. This is his job. He is the Sorcerer Supreme. He has to do this. Wake up in the morning, check on reality. Go to sleep, check on reality. And I feel
defend the sanctum.
You can feel the weight of that in stuff like Infinity War, where he's like, I can't be doing these little plans with I got like a reality.
I have a duty here.
Yeah, this is way bigger than whatever idea of a super team.
He handles his duty a lot better than Iron Fist did, who immediately left.
Yeah.
And then had the nerve to be surprised when he came back to find it destroyed.
Yeah. But that Doctor Strange moment is amazing.
Yes, it is.
My last honorary mention might get my nerd card revoked, but I actually decided not to put this in my top 10, but I'm going to elect to choose the airport battle from from Captain America Civil War. So let me lay it out for you guys at home. You have a dashingly handsome Chris Evans show up at an airport in Germany after having a little pep talk with Ant-Man and Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye, his crew. And he's out there and he's walking, and Iron Man shows up with War Machine, and they're kind of giving him crap. They're kind of sitting there and they're giving him a little bit of a guff because they want him to turn himself in. You and Bucky are doing way too much. And then you get Spider-Man. Our guy Spider-Man, literally snatched from the clutches of Sony.
Does whatever a spider can.
Exactly, and you get that, hello everyone moment. And it just breaks out. That airport battle from Civil War, I almost didn't put it on the list, but the thing is, I was in awe watching it for the first time. I remember thinking to myself, like, the music.
It kind of reminds me of the closing shot of the X-Men intro.
Yes.
Where they're
both running at each other.
each other.
And they even make the joke of, like, they're not stopping. Well, I guess we're not either. Or whatever, all that stuff. Ant-Man becoming Giant Man. Vision getting knocked out of the sky. Captain America and Spider-Man going at it. Captain America and Black Panther going at it. Spider-Man and Falcon and Bucky, where he's playing with them. Oh, you have a metal arm too. All that stuff. All that stuff I thought was great.
I do love Captain's reserve in this sort of thing. I guess you could reserve or determination, where it's just like, okay, we have a 8% chance of winning this fight.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna lose it on my back, if nothing else.
But you know, it's also kind of weird. There's a moment right at the end of that battle where, right after they get past the that thing that Vision was gonna throw on them or
Yeah.
whatever, they get past it, and then Natasha's there, and Cap's almost smiling. He says, "Natasha, like Zemo's behind all this. Like we're gonna figure this out. Like I know, like you're just in the wrong in this moment." He's so just like, why don't you guys see what I see with this? And that's him. I want to say in his trilogy where he's like, I can see this, and why isn't anyone paying attention
Right.
or reaching to this matter? But as a Cap fan, I thought it was amazing. As a comic fan, I thought it was amazing. I guess I've heard the criticisms that there was like low stakes or that nothing ended up coming out of it. And I guess because these people weren't trying to kill one another, that something should be taken away from it. But I won't take anything away from it. I
Well, they
think
were
it's a
never
great
trying
moment.
to kill one another, so I don't understand what the expectations were there.
Yeah, I don't think in the original Civil War comic they were trying to kill one another.
No, they were just trying to,
Subdue one another.
it was either you go to prison or you join the team.
Yeah, you go into the raft, kid. That's where they're sending everybody.
I also appreciate the Black Widow scene simply for the fact that it doesn't just break them off.
Yeah,
Because they've been portrayed as like this close knit friendship the entire time.
which is
She
cool.
travels with him throughout almost the entire Winter Soldier film and is a big part of that.
Yeah, and what's also cool about that is that she also, her Marvel cinematic debut is in Iron Man.
Yeah.
So she has these ties to both, where she's called Tony out for being, Tony, and has also, been on Cap's side, and was really an instrumental part of that Winter Soldier
She
arc.
shows up to the funeral just for the emotional support.
But as a Cap fan, I'm not gonna lie. Oh yeah, you're right, and no one else really did. But as a Cap fan, I'm not gonna lie. Knowing that T'Challa and Black Widow are down with him makes me like he's in the right. He has to be in the right? Like he wins this. Like what are you talking about? The spy and the king both say no. This guy's got it.
Right.
He's figured it out. And so that's completely my take on that whole thing. But yeah,
If you've been reading recently, you would notice that the comic book community has figured out that you really like that Captain America Black Panther thing.
It's true. And with this whole thing here, with the airport battle, the only reason why I feel like it didn't make the top 10 is I felt like something on the list I feel like is a little bit bigger, and I don't know if it might be recency bias, which I also think is something that's also affected my list, like we were talking about.
Sure.
How soon we've seen some of these things. But that rounds out my honorable mentions.
So my last one is a scene that it's not a big scene, and it's not this amazing, cinematic moment, but it's something that just resonated with me on a deeper level, and I had to sort of have it a part of this. It's in Black Panther, and it is really just the scene right as Killmonger takes his spot on the throne of Wakanda in his coronation.
Okay.
Right? And he asked the question that I think a lot of people ask in real life from a different level, and just touched on me as an African American male, where he pretty much comes right out and asks them, well, where was Wakanda when all these terrible things were happening to your, migrated brothers and sisters in America?
Yeah.
Y'all were over here in y'all happy bubble, thriving, 3 steps ahead of everyone in science, ergonomics,
Yeah.
medicine, and everything. And we're struggling over here.
He touched a little bit on it in like right before then when he spoke to T'Challa, that I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Where he says something like, you have all this stuff and you're hiding it from the world or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I'm king of Wakanda, I'm not king of the world. And he was like, well, didn't the world start in Africa or something like that? And
Right.
and it's like the idea like, oh, I didn't even have an answer to that. And I was sitting there like, wait a minute.
It asks a lot of questions that I never expected to ask, and a lot of hard biting things that go on in that in the community, and the fact that there is a huge separation now between African Americans and Native African people.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
we share nothing in common, absolutely nothing. It's not something I always see in other ethnicities. Like, I feel like there is still some sort of connection between some Puerto Rican Americans and Puerto Rico.
Right.
There is some
definitely.
shared heritage there, and with a lot of people, the Middle Eastern, there's a lot of shared heritage there. The Asian community, a lot of shared heritage from the mainland and back here.
Right.
There is none of that when it comes to African Americans
There's definitely a
and
division.
mainland Africa for the most part.
Yeah, and the thing is,
there's still a few people walking through Fordham Road and dashikis, but I'm just
in that moment, even though we've seen how technologically advanced and how forward-thinking Wakanda is, and we've seen how smart and diplomatic T'Challa is, in that moment, Killmonger is asking both of them to be better. You know? And that's big because we think that they're the best already. We've seen them. They're like, oh, you guys are awesome. And he's like, how awesome can you be? The entire world could use what you got, and you guys have just hoarded it to yourselves.
Just hoarding it.
You're not that great. You guys are not that great.
No.
And for the villain to call him out on that, I always think that makes for some compelling drama, because it always could just be, I just want to destroy the world.
I just want to burn it all. Which of course, it does work against him in the sense that, like, he obviously wants these things to take weapons back to the United States and just kind of ransack the place.
Yeah, that's
so
what he
he's
wants,
not completely, how do you say, driven by altruism.
Right.
But
but he did raise some big questions.
he had good intentions with really poor implementations.
Okay.
Of them.
I can see that.
We're gonna help all our people by wrecking shop on everyone else.
Yeah, and I mean, vengeance begets vengeance, so that would have been a whole bloodbath. But thankfully, he didn't become the king of Wakanda for too long.
No,
he was like Killmonger. He's like, sup? It's like, yeah, we can't have him as the king.
He was nothing like those people. It was so hilarious.
We can't have him as the king. This can't go down.
We done with all that.
But now it is time to break in to the top 10 greatest comic book movie moments of all time. And I'm going to start off with probably the most rocking choice on my list, which is simply titled, What Are You the God of Again? Let me set the stage for you. You got Hela, the queen of the goddess of death, half sister of old Thor.
Yeah.
Half sister of Thor, Odin's son, and she is beating the living crap out of this man. And he basically is knocked out to a point where he imagines that, or maybe he does actually see his father. Mm-hmm. And his father, he's just like, I can't beat her. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I can't save Asgard. And he's like, oh, Asgard's not a place, bro. Asgard's a people. And he's like, you're not the god of hammers, and all this kind of stuff.
God of hammers?
Yeah, he's like, and I mean, Anthony Hopkins was just like, you guys got a lot going on in here. Can I just be like in Norway? In my like, Etsy, my little Etsy eye patch that was woven for me or something like that. And he gives him the pep talk. I'm a sucker for father and son pep talks.
Yes.
In these movies. He gives him the pep talk that he needs. The electricity starts to come, and the music starts to hit, the immigrant song, and he gets to he jumps through, he reaches the Bifrost in a scene that we saw in the trailers, but we didn't know he only had one eye at that point. Now he only has one eye, and he is just clotheslining and 300 kicking chests.
Psycho Crusher too.
Oh yeah, he does a Psycho Crusher.
He does a Psycho Crusher. And
just taking them all out. There's that scene of him jumping into like a group of them, like there's like a whole mountain of them, and he's just charging. It's one of the coolest, like, hell yeah moments, I think, in comic book movie history.
Just the right choice of music to go with Immigrant Song. Like, it is the rockin' Viking,
And it's so weird because Thor Ragnarok was a movie I didn't know I needed until I got it. And I didn't know that Thor needed it.
Different places on that one.
I didn't know Thor needed it till he got it. I don't think that we should move too far away from the majesty that is like the original Thor or Asgard in general, Norse mythology, that stuff there. But because it does have a disconnect with certain fans, because it is so,
woven in its own, how do you say, background, and
a lot of it, on the face of it, even though it's mythology, is kind of ridiculous.
Yes.
A world serpent that surrounds the entire world that he's going to drag off. That's kind of ridiculous. So you kind of have to play it silly.
Yeah, it's a niche market in its own way.
And even in the movie, playing everything completely silly, that moment was played serious.
Yes.
The what are you the god of again? It reminds us that Thor is more than a hammer, which is something that literally has been a point of contention since the MCU begins. He gets his hammer taken away in one, and two, it doesn't really help fight Malekith. Like he was like on even playing field with Malekith in this one, and in three, it just gets straight up destroyed. So. Yeah, what are you the god of again? Definitely a top 10 moment, and he's on my list for top 10 moment of in comic book history.
All right. So my number 10 is one from the ever fabled, ever lauded, ever celebrated Dark Knight trilogy.
Ah, awesome.
Yes. God bless us, Christopher Nolan. Hallowed be thy name. And it is from the also often celebrated, often non-duplicated Dark Knight film, which is one of my favorite scenes, the interrogation scene.
Ah, amazing scene.
In which I have titled Nothing to Threaten Me With.
Oh, yeah.
This is supposed to be a big W for not just Batman, but the GCPD.
Yeah.
They still got a lot of work to do, but they have captured the Joker. We're going to try to get everything we need to get out of him. And Batman is going to go about things the Batman way.
Yeah. Which is with his fist majority of the time.
Most of the time, yes.
It's with his fist. I'm gonna punch him real hard.
Punch him real hard, I'm scare him, I'm gonna get the answers I need.
That's it.
Joker has a good little talk with him, incites all the violence he needs, and as Batman kind of starts to lose his stuff, he starts to beat on him and pummel him and try to intimidate the answers out of him. And Joker just constantly laughs at him.
Yeah.
And says the line that I love so much is like, you have nothing to threaten me with. Yeah. Nothing to do with all your strength.
Yeah.
Because punching me is not going to get the answers you want.
And you'll just keep doing it because that's the only thing you can do.
It's the only thing you can do, and none of it scares me because nothing about you scares me.
And to think that physical harm and probably jail time are the biggest fears of the criminals that are caught by Batman. Mm-hmm. For him to actually be in jail, right, and not care, and then have the physical harm being done to him, you would think
I'm already locked up. You can't punch the answers out of me.
And a lot of people would, they do that scene a lot, right? The whole like good cop, bad cop. The bad cop's locked in there with the criminal, and he's just gonna scare him, punch him, push him, and get the information out. And this guy is not letting out. And then and then what's worse, right? He does give him the information, but he does it because it's fun. He says like, you know what? Yeah, I'll give you what you want.
Yeah,
and
I'm gonna give you the impossible choice, left or right. Pick one. You have no time for both.
I would extend that moment all the way to the death of Rachel.
Sure.
I would do, you got the phone call, right?
Yes.
I want my phone call. My stomach hurts. Like I'm seeing Christmas lights or something like that. Where Joker breaks out of
it is a parade of manipulation, but it was a favorite scene for mine because it completely stripped Batman of every power he had.
Yeah.
He was a how do you say? He was a weapon of fear and intimidation, and there was none to be given.
Yeah, he was basically neutralized.
Completely.
And so even in a moment like that where he, where he is told to his face, like, none of this stuff is gonna work, he does hit him harder.
Yeah.
Like, that is his first reaction. It's just frustration.
Oh, great, sure. Just keep punching me.
And that's it. But it's such a love letter to the dichotomy of those two. The idea that no matter what Batman can build to prepare him for what the Joker has, the Joker is not a normal villain. He doesn't want what normal villains want, and therefore his weaknesses are not what normal villain weaknesses are. Great movie, great moment, and especially like Christopher Nolan, I forget a lot because it gets gushed over so much, the Dark Knight trilogy, so I try to like leave it where it's at sometimes, but every time I revisit it, it's amazing. Every time I revisit it, it's
every
really,
time.
really,
I
really
revisited it like a year ago and found a whole new appreciation for Batman Begins. Because I wasn't as big a fan of the entire thing when I first watched it.
Okay.
When I watched it later as a bigger comic book fan and as a deeper understanding of these characters, it spoke to me a lot
It's a little dry the first time. It's a little dry the first watch.
Probably.
It's a lot. There's a lot in there, but it's also a little dry.
Probably, especially if your first, like, if your exposure to Batman is only in 30-minute bursts.
Yeah. And it's
where things happen pretty quickly.
Very long, kind of dry. But I had the interrogation scene on my top 10, but I will slide this in its place. I'll meet you Batman for Batman, and I'll go the training montage from Batman Begins.
That is also wonderful.
The training montage from Batman Begins is the first and probably only time we've ever seen anyone train the man who becomes Batman.
Yes.
And so all of it, as it all starts to click, as you see that the ninja gauntlets are what he wears, on his bat suit.
Yes.
And how they teach him deception and, smoke bombs and all that kind of stuff. How they teach theatricality. How they teach him about footing.
Mm-hmm.
The entire lesson of the Batman is the idea of the Ra's al Ghul, which is that this is a symbol bigger than, what you think. And this guy isn't Ra's al Ghul, but we're going to say that it is bigger. And you're going to understand the ideology of the League of Shadows. If not just... Was it League of Shadows in that? I get mixed up with it because League of Assassins in...
No, it was League of Shadows.
Yeah, because League of Shadows.
Yes,
You definitely have that. But
which is a better name.
Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul,
a.k.a. Ducard.
Henry Ducard. Great. All the watch your footing moments with the ice, and your enemy is not gonna give you chance for mercy, all that kind of stuff. And then they're hanging out by a campfire, and he's telling them stories.
Mm-hmm.
It was so cool to see Bruce be the wide-eyed, unprepared guy. Because everything else, when we get him in '89, he's already doing everything he has to do. He's already.
What I also appreciate about it is that even though it's kind of, it sounds weird to say, it's kind of quick because the Batman training scenes happen over a period of time that you're getting cuts into.
Yeah.
You see that from the time that they met in the prison to the time where he is about to be coronated officially into the League of Shadows, that Ra's al Ghul and Bruce Wayne have developed this kind of friendship.
Yeah, he respects him.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that's big because... he was the guy to get the flower, right? The blue flower. He got the blue flower.
He believes deeply in this Bruce Wayne and that he's going to be great for them.
And he outsmarts Henry. He solves that whole riddle that they get with the whole slicing of the people's arms in succession. And so in that moment, you get that whole detective, right? How Ra's al Ghul likes to call him detective.
Yes.
You get that amount of respect out of it. So yeah, I got to go with the training montage. Really, really good stuff. There's a bunch of training montages in general. I've also realized there is a metric ton of highway scenes. There are so many highway scenes. I was watching
the highway
Deadpool.
Scene is quite popular.
I was watching Deadpool 2 yesterday because I had come out on DVD and stuff, so I was rewatching it. And I'm like, oh yeah, look, a highway scene. They do it. They have their highway scene. And then I remember that in Black Panther they had a highway scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, and it had a highway scene in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
did they?
Yeah. So I'm just
like, they did the massive Hello Kitty dispenser.
Right. And so it's just you can't go on the highway, but it's not worth
it. Works.
It's not worth it going on the highway.
It never works. Liam Neeson is fantastic as Ra's al Ghul the entire film, by the way, and Liam Neeson is just it's a great actor. It's a shame that he seems to just get guy with gun films these days.
Yeah. They want him to be old Bond now.
Yeah. It's really good when they give him stuff to work with.
And I also thought Christian Bale did a great job seeming in over his own head.
Yes.
He was just a billionaire that lived in a city. He lived in a swanky mansion, and that's all it was. He shouldn't know how to do all this stuff off the rip, but the fact that he was trained and wanted to be trained, and the fact that he dug himself into the depths of criminality so quickly and so willingly, gets us to where we got in that scene.
So, for me, number 9 is one that I had to sort of pull back out of my memory banks. And this one it's one of those things where the scene has an effect on a populace because it gets done over and over and over in different forms. In parody,
right?
In callbacks, in separate moments in other sequels. but it's a moment that resonated at the time with a lot of people and was kind of iconic for the work it was doing at the time.
Okay.
The name of this entry is called "You Have a Knack for Saving My Life."
Ah.
It is the upside down kiss between Spider-Man and good old Mary Jane Watson.
Yeah, I think that's a crowning moment in the trilogy. You know.
Yeah. Because even today, what was it? The Homecoming came out, what, a year and a half, 2 years ago?
Yeah, which puts it, I think, about 15 years.
And
15
it
years
parodies that very scene.
Yeah.
Where he's hanging upside down and the AI goes, "This is your chance, Peter. Kiss her."
It was definitely the most modern romantic superhero moment.
It was.
You know,
yes.
2000 hits, 2001 the film comes out. Not a big fan of Mary Jane. I've gone on record as saying that.
Certainly,
but
that's fine.
But the whole rain sequence, the whole like him trying to hide in the shadows because he doesn't want no one to know his identity.
Yeah. He's sort of Batmaning it up because he's like he's got no mask, but he's just playing off the darkness to do the thing.
Yeah. Really, really good. The upside down kiss moment for Spider-Man defines that trilogy for a lot of people. That's how they think
it absolutely does.
Of that moment.
There's two images you get when you that will just incur when you think of the Spider-Man trilogy from back the Tobey Maguire back then, which is the upside down kiss and Spider-Man on the flag.
Yeah. I was about to say Spider-Man and the American flag.
Yeah.
he was always in front of an American flag.
They overdid it, but the first one was great.
I say we stay in Spidey Town.
Okay.
I'll match your Spidey with a Spidey. I'm gonna go with the train scene from Spider-Man 2.
I respect that.
The train scene from Spider-Man 2 also basically got redone. It was so great it got redone. I think at the time was probably the best superhero fight we've had.
Mm-hmm.
Special effects now when you look at it, it's
a little shaky.
A little shaky, but considering that it was a half man, half arachnid against a octopus metal man, they think they did pretty well. I also like the New Yorkers standing up for Spider-Man. I liked, he's just a kid, Yeah. The idea that they could fight on a moving train, which is like, that's kind of cliche, but with their powers, it made it cool. Right. And then Peter gets knocked off the train, and even when he's knocked off the train, Octopus starts to throw people randomly out of the train, and he has to catch them because he knows that Peter won't let any of these people die, and so this is gonna make this way easier. He kills the conductor. He just smashes his face with one of the tentacles through his face, and then breaks the brakes of the thing. And now we have an immovable object. Unstoppable force. And he, Spider-Man initially just starts to try to web things and web it up, and it doesn't work in the beginning. It all starts to break. Yeah. And so he has to do like a tremendous amount of webs, and you get that iconic Jesus pose moment where he's trying to hold the train back, and he's screaming. Oh, it's oh so good. That's
it's a wonderful scene. If I may slightly
deviate a little bit.
Yeah. Doc Ock has a lot of horrifying moments in this movie.
Yeah, he does. Especially like the birth of Doc Ock is like straight from a horror movie.
The first time that those like arms sort of come alive and they're just murdering everyone in the hospital room.
Yeah.
It was like Jesus Christ. It's just like you said. It was very much a horror scene. Kind of. It's something out of Evil Dead, which I think was the same director.
Right. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Well, I know Bruce Campbell, and I know Bruce Campbell's in.
Yes.
He's in that movie.
Yes.
And you also get the whole like talking to the tentacles thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. Which was also the issue with Norman. Remember?
Yeah.
Remember how I had to sacrifice. I like Norman. I like Norman. He didn't make the list for me in this though. I did like Norman though.
I love Norman, and I thought about it because like I'm a fan of the roof chat that they have.
Yeah.
Me and you, Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't know why he felt he had to put on that voice for that.
I don't know, but I like the voice.
It is
honestly.
What it is.
It was a little bit of cheese from William Dafoe, but it worked.
And he was like kind of ripped.
Yeah. But I also think that there was supposed to be an idea that they were personalities.
Yeah.
So like, they don't do it with Two-Face, but in the cartoon, Big Bad Harv and Harvey Dent are two different people with two different distinct voices.
Yeah.
And a lot of other mediums kind of, with voice acting, portray them that way. So I think that's what William Dafoe is going for. that the manic side of him that is the Green Goblin would sound different from Norman Osborn.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
it worked for me.
I dig it. I dig it.
Because like when he's talking to that other side of him in the mirror, they have different voices.
Yeah. And you know, he also comes back to kind of motivate Harry.
Yes, he does.
Harry. Harry.
We
Yeah.
take his heart.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in that movie. A lot going on in all those movies. But I think we picked some great moments. What do you got?
No, you're next. You have number 8.
Oh, didn't I just do my train scene?
Oh, that's right. That's right. You asked before. Fantastic. Okay, so
Wait,
number
did you
8.
say fantastic? Are you?
No, that is not. That is not
Are you?
some sort of foreshadowing.
No. I thought
No.
that was pretty cool.
Number 8 for me is it's one of those moments where even though I don't find myself constantly needing these things to happen, you sometimes just want to see an image from the comic books portrayed on that big screen. This was a big image I was looking forward to since the movie was announced, and I got it.
Okay.
So this scene for me is entitled "He Killed My Mom,"
Ah.
in which you get the big Captain America Iron Man fight in that bunker, and you get the scene from that Civil War comic that I love so much of Tony shooting the blasters and Iron Man just fighting it off with the shield, and
Yeah.
it just looked wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it comes straight out of that comic there. At this point, we have been, you know, close to a decade with these characters.
Mhm.
We don't really want to see them fight, but man, they did not pull out any of the punches in that fight.
No, they did
Especially,
not.
you know, it almost looked like two pit bulls fighting, and Cap is trying to grab them by their leashes and keep them away from each other.
Right.
At the point where they're amputating one another, he tries to rip the arc reactor out.
Yeah.
You know, all this stuff. And then as a Cat fan, the whole like he's moving too fast for our sensors to. I'm like, what is that a thing? I dig that. Yes, he's moving too fast. What does that even mean? Go get him, Cap.
We can't keep up with him.
So great. I don't know why she's Irish, not Friday, right?
I don't know, I assume she always was, I guess.
Yeah, so great. I thought that was
Tony seems like the kind of person who would pick particular female accents for his AI.
Now, are you of the belief that Tony is validated in this moment? Like that he's justified?
I believe his emotional reaction is sort of justified. Like, logically speaking, sure, Cap is right. He didn't have control of himself. It was, it was Hydra, basically. Right. But I can understand harboring, this resentment and vengeance for the people who killed your parents your entire life.
Yeah.
And you find out, like, we know that it's Bucky. Cap knows that it's Bucky. Tony Stark doesn't give a crap about this guy.
No, he doesn't. Nope.
And once he learns this information, like, he doesn't see Cap's friend Bucky or former, U.S. soldier Bucky. He just sees the dude who killed his parents.
Yeah, and that's all that he needs to see at that point.
That's all that matters to Tony. Not that, like, this guy could be an Avenger or could be a friend of Cap's. Just murderer of my parents.
And then that scene ends with him telling him to drop the shield, which is another, like, I get you're upset, bro, but, like, do you really need the shield back?
Tony's the kind of guy who, when he gets upset, he'll go for the jugular.
So you also feel like he's the kind of guy who, when he breaks up, he wants all his stuff back? He wants all his sweatshirts and his CDs?
Oh, yeah.
People don't give each other CDs anymore, do they?
No.
What do you do? You just customize an iPod and give it to somebody? How does this work nowadays? I'm a little bit off course with that. I dig that. You said with your Spider-Man choice that you picked something that you feel like was so iconic in the medium that they ended up just redoing it time and again. I think there's a scene in comic book movie history that people forget that I think is the precursor to a lot. And it is the introduction to Hit Girl and Kick-Ass.
Oh, okay.
I think
the bit indie here.
Yeah, just a little bit. In case y'all didn't know, Kick-Ass, comic book, Kick-Ass the movie written after the comic book property Kick-Ass, and the introduction of Hit Girl in this, it starts off with Kick-Ass just seemingly in over his own head. He's in a gangster's home. Like, he's trying to like defend his girlfriend. He's in the gangster's home, and all of a sudden, one of the gangsters gets tasered in their forehead, and you're like, "What the heck is going on? Who is this?" And you turn, you see this little girl with a bow staff, and each edge of the bow staff has a knife attached to it. And she is just filleting these grown men. She's going through cutting off arms, cutting off legs, cutting off fingers. She has all these cool gadgets and these acrobatic moments. I see it in Deadpool. You know, I see it anytime anything wants to go R-rated, especially with swords and stuff. Like, I felt like because they didn't shy away, especially in the superhero genre with this, that introduction, not only is it great, but it gives me hope for Damian Wayne in superheroes, because they could do it and they did it then. You know, Chloe Grace Moretz, I want to say is her name.
Chloe Grace Moretz.
She was what, 8 when that happened, maybe 7 or something.
I don't think she was that young.
Yeah, she was definitely young. She was definitely pretty young, because she was like what, 14 when she did Carrie. 15 or something.
Was she?
Or she was definitely, yeah, because she was like in junior high school, I want to say, in Kick-Ass. She was young, and the idea that they would let not only a young but a little girl. You know, there's this thing in Hollywood where that's like the most precious commodity is like young little girls. So if you ever want to make someone seem evil, they traffic young little girls, or they kill young little girls, or the kid. Exactly.
So young.
And so the fact that she is this young little girl that's completely capable of not only protecting herself, but now saving another grown-ass man.
Right.
I got to throw the Hit Girl stuff in there. And it also made me feel a little bit good about putting, you know, a little indie film on my list. I'm not...
Stuff out there,
my pinky is fully out, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
I'm fancy.
If you could see how pretentious and...
Look at that. Look how erect that pinky is right there.
Yes.
Out of control. But yeah, bow staff's nice on the top. Little girl.
Also like, you know, he reads Saga.
Oh my God, that's not that pretentious. But yeah, definitely bow staff with knives on the top. That's on the list. Definitely on the list.
No, I respect that. I became a huge fan of Chloe Grace Moretz.
Were you getting into your Morrison again? I was a fan. I was a huge fan.
Chloe Grace Moretz really, you know, found a way into my heart through those films.
That was it.
Yeah, I became a big fan of Chloe Grace Moretz after that stuff, and kind of followed her around, like, and you know, enjoyed her. And she did the Denzel Washington film that they just sequeled, The Equalizer.
Oh yeah, Equalizer. Yes.
I believe she's in Neighbors too. I got to get around to that.
Yeah. She's in a lot of stuff.
They were fun. Also, you get the man who would be Quicksilver.
Yes, you do.
Out of Kick-Ass.
Yep. Yeah, we were just talking about him too.
Yes.
And he fights Godzilla. So that's the whole thing. He's
had
a hell of a life. He's had a hell of a life.
He does?
Yeah. Aaron Taylor Johnson. I want to say is his name. He's done a lot of stuff. And guess what? In Godzilla, his love interest is Scarlet Witch. Makes it a little weird. Makes it a little creepy.
No, it just makes it ultimate.
Oh, yeah, that did happen in Ultimate, didn't it?
Yes, it did. And nobody likes to remember it happening. Oh, that was so weird. Okay, so I want to say we're on number 7?
Yeah, we're on 7.
So my number 7 is, in the fantastical, amazing spectacle that is comic books and comic book movies, it can sometimes be a bit difficult to get a moment that really actually tugs at you.
Okay.
There are a lot of sweet moments, there are a lot of nice moments, and a lot of fun moments, but it actually seems to be very rare, especially in the fleeting timelines or time frames that certain characters are around for, that you get a really powerful, strong moment.
Yeah.
I got one here that I can rarely ever say this. I almost teared up during a film.
Okay.
Still kind of do when I watch it.
Gotcha.
That would be the Ravager funeral from Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah, that is...
I have never felt that bad about a character death in so long.
And you also have the accompanying Cat Stevens song in the background.
Yes,
you know,
it did not freaking help.
Yeah, I mean,
it was so sad.
I try to think now though. We rarely get funerals now for these heroes. You know, we get the obligatory Spider-Man in the cemetery scene in that trilogy every year.
Sure.
But we rarely got an opportunity for heroes to say goodbye to other heroes.
Yeah.
And so
the only one I can think of is the Peggy Carter one.
Yeah. And you saw how that was kind of like heart-wrenching too, because it's the idea that like I've known this person my whole life, and well, not my whole life, but and the most important part of my life, and now this person's gone. Same thing with Peter Quill here with Yondu, who basically makes a full circle of redemption in this film, and was threatened that he would never have this reaction when he passed away.
This was the only the only thing he really wanted.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, it was the only Yondu just being this devil may care, how do you say, criminal of a character. Like, this is the only thing that kind of meant something to him.
Yeah.
Between protecting Peter Quill, the Ravagers was kind of the only thing that meant something to him. As far as he was concerned, he was still part of it.
Yeah.
So for him to kind of get that send off, you even see it in his partner, like, Yondu went out on the highest possible note he could have.
Yeah, he got the highest respect from his group. Sean Gunn's character, I can't never remember his name.
I don't either.
But yeah, he was all hyped that he had gotten that. And then how it loops into itself, where Rocket asks the question out loud, basically if he's ever gonna get that kind of reaction, or the idea that Yondu is kind of a dick. And he still got this reaction. Is there hope out there for other dicks?
It wraps up kind of everyone in that moment. Like everyone just kind of comes together in like Rocket sort of admits that he's kind of a really flawed person and doesn't know how to fix that in himself, but is trying to.
Yeah.
Gamora and Star-Lord just kind of finally like admit that there is something happening between the two of them.
Yeah.
Everyone just kind of gets roped in by this massive moment.
And it ties the movie off like a bow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Great moment. I have a moment.
Oh, and Groot actually embraces Drax, which he won't do for the entire film.
Yeah, because he's in his little,
He's in this weird thing with Drax where, like, he won't even dance in front of Drax.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, they became such a family in that second film.
Petting him and everything.
They definitely become such a family in that film, and they lost a family member. I thought the whole idea of, like, covering him up in, like, all these cool, like, trinkets and stuff before they sent him out on his Viking funeral I thought that was pretty great.
Kind of reminded me of the Spock funeral from Star Trek.
Can I say it's not on my list, but I absolutely love the Viking funeral from Thor 2. When Frigga passes away, Thor's mother, and Loki has that quiet reaction in his cell where he basically just like does this thing of magic and sends everything in his cell smashing because he's just so upset that his mother has passed. My moment is going to be incredibly short, but I think it's an incredibly good moment, and I also think that it is a moment that I think back to fondly so many times. So, after realizing that the person that he's been trying to arrest or take into captivity or custody probably that's never gonna happen, we see a sad, a depressed, and just a bottom of the barrel Thunderbolt Ross having a drink at a bar, and he's sitting there and he just wants to drink all his problems away. When you see a silhouette at the bar door. And as he gets closer, you realize that this is Tony Stark. And Tony Stark walks over to Thunderbolt Ross and basically asks him if he knows about, where Bruce Banner is and heard that he's having some troubles with the Hulk.
Right.
And he was like, and he basically says, what if I told you we're putting together some kind of a team? Mm-hmm. And that was just, like, I know the Avengers Initiative stuff from Nick Fury was a big deal, but this is the first crossover.
Right.
And that was such a big deal to me because this was the first time, I'm guessing, in history that this has happened, the crossover. And the fact that they have laid it out on the table, like, Easter eggs get very Easter eggy where they want you to go on this, like, galaxy quest to find all the hidden clues of what they're trying to say. Remember the Essex thing from Logan, I think it was, or some of those things?
Yeah.
Or
Essex
Apocalypse. It was Apocalypse. I was like, Essex. And I should have known it was Miss Sinister off the rap, but it's like, there's a lot of names in comic books. So
especially in X-Men, which is just its entire island to itself, continuity, and
so it's this idea, and because there have been so many islands to themselves, Spider-Man, X-Men that we had just gotten, in the same decade. That moment in Incredible Hulk is the moment that says this is not your grandfather's superhero franchise. We're about to put everybody together, and this is about to be, a whole different thing.
Which is funny because in a lot of ways, a lot of people do not ever talk about The Incredible Hulk as an MCU film.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's sort of this forgotten movie.
It's definitely like a stepchild of
Like, it never seemed like it was ever a part of it in the first place. But there is so many crossovers in it that, you know, Thunderbolt Ross, that actor and that character, still around today from that.
yeah.
You know, from what was it? There was like the second movie in the franchise, technically.
Yeah.
So from that, in Infinity War,
And it makes sense that he would know and have the knowledge of everything that's happened so far because he's been in that position.
yes. Which,
You
by
know?
the way, my pitch: Avengers 5, New Avengers versus the Thunderbolts.
You gonna have old Red Hulk in there?
I'm not saying Red Hulk, but I'm saying he leads the team.
I dig it.
It's his team of douchebags.
I dig it. I
These
dig
are
it.
guys that obey me because the Avengers freaking won't.
Yes, as long as they don't get too close to the Suicide Squad aspect of the
No,
Thunderbolts.
no,
I'm
no,
good.
no, 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 no. Just more like just more like a team versus team battle instead of a team versus a big guy
Yeah, I also don't
or a team
dig.
versus a horde of aliens.
Yeah, I don't need them for 20 minutes saying, we're the bad guys. Oh, by the way, we're the bad guys.
Yeah, no, it's just like Thunderbolts team of villains. Like, you could even, the few that they have that are still alive, you could even bring back established villains and they'd be your Thunderbolts.
Yeah,
First,
I can see that.
You know, the Thunderbolt Ross team versus the team of the New Avengers, which will be
Especially if you're still keeping people alive. That should be a whole thing, right? Like, keep villains alive so you can use them again. Come on, guys.
Ant-Man, Wasp, Captain Marvel.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
I'm thinking about who's going to still be around.
Oh,
when we
yeah.
get to
I mean,
Avengers 5.
T'Challa got to be around. Black
T'Challa, yes.
T'Challa
Black
definitely got to be
Panther.
around.
It's almost the Ultimates at that point. All right, so that's yours.
Yeah, we're getting close to that top 5. This is your number 6.
Yes, it is. So, for number 6, what I have going on here is I just kind of knock into the table a bit. We're going to go a little bit. I think this is our first. No, it's going to be our first foray into what we know now as supposedly the DCEU or DC
snap.
Worlds, or they just won't title it whatever.
Right,
DC
right.
Cinematic Universe. One of my favorite scenes from what a lot of people would say has been their absolute best movie to date, and what you have to say has been the biggest benchmark movie for superhero films as a whole for quite some time.
Batman vs Superman. I get it. I dig it. I didn't think you were gonna have the Martha scene on this show, but I mean,
No, you're a jerk. No, I'm talking about No Man's Land from Wonder Woman.
Diana Prince.
A scene that they had to fight to keep into the film.
It's just maddening, right? Like, why would you ever think that would need to be taken out?
They did not want it in there, and Miss Patty Jenkins had to fight to keep that scene in the film. I'm not sure what she acquiesced to get it.
Yeah.
But it ended up being the iconic shot of the entire film. Diana Prince is stuck in the trenches of World War I, excuse me. We've done World War II so many times, you'd think it was. World War I, and she just decides she's going to fight off the bad guys herself. Just walks up into No Man's Land and just into a hailstorm of bullets and just starts fighting them off, blocking it one by one. This beautiful slow motion cinematic shot of her just blocking off bullets with her gauntlets. It goes running into the fight and then just takes out the entire other side, and the rest of the war goes with her.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. I liked the gravitas that they brought to war, because war in a lot of these movies is just something that you do, right? Yeah. And so in this film, like her seeing that children were being gassed and that people haven't been fed, dealing with the PTSD of that guy the sharpshooter.
Yeah.
You know, dealing with him, and the idea, that scene starts off with like
who never quite gets his W in that movie.
I never got that. Which is also kind of a haunting, reality portion of that film. But you get the moment where they say like, Diana, no man has ever crossed whatever. He's like, I have no man, and then she crosses it, and then you get the music. Mm-hmm. The music swells up, and then she has like that assault.
Yes.
Where she just goes through, kneeing people through windows and all kinds of stuff. Definitely a kick-ass moment. DCEU definitely needed it also
Shield
to show.
and lasso and everything.
Oh, they all
All the
got it.
tools.
Yeah, they all got it, and she took all the fire. And it's funny because it's almost like a parable to DCU criticism, right? Like she stood there and took all the energy and
Yeah.
attention and all that stuff, so that the rest of the movies could run around and flank, and they could get to the other side safely.
And by the way, whether it's Gal Gadot or the stunt woman, whatever, like she just moves smoothly through so many of those scenes.
Yeah, she does. Especially a lot of those sliding, like
Yeah.
on the knees stuff. I could do that once, and then I'm never getting back up
She
again.
looks like she definitely stands out as like a warrior just amongst soldiers.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
compared to people who are just fighting their guns and throwing their grenades and whatnot, she looks like someone who's just been trained to do this.
I dig
It
it.
stands out a lot, and it's one of my favorite things
Yeah,
ever.
I think they realized that, and that's why they give her lots of like fighty things. They gave her a little scene in Justice League. I think she might be the only one with a scene in Justice League by herself.
Or like her own fight scene.
Yeah, like away from the team.
Oh yeah, the bank.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she definitely gets her own little thing there. Speaking of moments that made you a little bit emotional, this one probably is one of the most emotional moments I had in the MCU. And it is when Ronan's Stone falls out of the hammer or is smashed out of the hammer,
Yes.
and Peter Quill goes to grab it and grabs it, and the energy starts to kill him, and the Guardians have to hold hands to distribute the energy, and Peter sees his mother, cancer-ridden mother,
right.
as Gamora asking for his hand to be outstretched, and watching every one of them slowly volunteer to disperse the rest of this energy, and then basically like you heard it, we the Guardians of the Galaxy, like that, like all of that together, the music swelling up, the dun, 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 all of that, so cool.
It's one of the few times in that movie where it seems like the Guardians have their own theme because it's so entrenched in this like Peter Quill mixtape.
Yes, exactly. And so, him, somebody who's done it by himself for the majority of the movie and doesn't really want a team, gets this team, and this is their first real big team moment, their first moment of sacrifice. Besides the Groot stuff where he blows himself up, that was kind of sad too. That
Yeah,
we are Groot goes in there, but one moment per movie. So I'm picking that moment. I gotta pick the moment where the Guardians choose to, because they didn't know what the heck was gonna happen. They all could have died.
Right.
In that moment, they chose to disperse the energies of an Infinity Stone between the four of them.
Yes.
And that is I'm always gonna see the Peter take my hand,
Yeah.
and him looking over.
It's a great moment even just thematically because Peter finally gets to like accept his mother's death in the way he didn't as a child.
Yeah, he ran away.
Yeah.
He ran away from that, and this is the most he ran away because he did not know what life would be afterwards. And that's what change does, right?
Yeah.
In this moment, he's
And he
completely
also just he didn't want to accept that this was her going away.
yeah, and that these
If
things
I
happen.
take her hand, it's gonna happen.
Right. And now he's able to give that up, and just a great moment. That rounds out number 5 on my list of top moments. What breaks your top 5?
Number 5 for me might not be as big for other people, but for me, there's sort of maybe one moment where you kind of decide you might be on a fence with a character, and you get that moment where it's just like, okay, this is cool. I love this. I'm a fan now. For me, that came in one of my favorite scenes, set to one of my favorite scores, the artist of which I forget at the moment, which I titled, Does Anybody Want to Get Off?
That's on my list as well. Yep, definitely.
Captain America escapes the S.H.I.E.L.D. base.
Yeah.
With that really badass, cramped elevator fight scene, and then taking out every one of the S.H.I.E.L.D. / probably Hydra forces.
It was a great
takes out
moment.
the plane.
Yeah, it's a great moment because it builds on the tension.
Yeah.
You see, and great. It had to be great. Directing, great acting. comes out. This is Winter Soldier, 2014. So,
Yes.
you see the look on Chris Evans' face as he starts to deduce what's happening, and he's doing, the mental math, and he's like, okay, there's way too many people here. Why are they surrounding me? They all seem to have weapons.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's going on
It's
here.
just instinctual, soldier's instincts, completely.
And then that badass moment of saying that line is like, wow, you really were ready for this, huh? Like, this is a big moment for you. And he says the line, and then he spends majority of that fight handcuffed. Basically, he has one hand,
like magnetically stuck to the wall.
Yeah, and he's being electrocuted. He's getting pounded on and electrocuted, all this kind of stuff. He's doing all these kind of cool,
Rock Rumlow.
all these cool gymnastics and stuff. And then once everybody's knocked out, he does that cool little stomping of the shield.
Yes.
And bounces off, and he grabs it.
Grabs it, front flip, pose.
Yeah, and then, well, no, he grabs it, and then he hears that there's people on the other side of the elevator door.
Oh, okay.
And so he smashes out the back of the.
Yes,
So he smashes out the back of the thing, falls at least an estimated 700 miles down to the ground.
Apparently, that shield just like makes everything.
And that he falls down to the ground. That shield, is able to take, I guess, all of the forces what vibranium does, I think.
Right.
And then they're like, well, you have to close all the doors. Then he won't get out. And then you see Cap on a motorcycle just shooting out of the building. And he decides to go one-on-one with a Quinjet.
Yes.
And oh my God, jumps on, does like a triple axel, jumps on the Quinjet, throws his shield, smashes two of the
bang bang, like takes out 2 or 3 engines in one throw.
Jumps, and then he does the coolest,
catches the shield,
probably the
flip,
best superhero
landing. It's so good that the last Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite game actually used it for their big Captain America like combo move.
But that's you can hear it almost, that and the Iron Man one, right? We hear the metal just ding. They're here. It's over.
Also playing the song that, like, for me has become sort of the Captain America theme song in that movie.
Oh yeah, Taking a Stand. So that guy who did that was Henry Jackman. Did the
Henry Jackson or
Jackman? Because I think of because it reminds me of Hugh Jackman. Okay. Henry Jackman.
Yes.
He did the score for Winter Soldier, and that Taking a Stand song is my Captain America.
I think
theme.
he did the score for Civil War as well, because it's all very similar.
I really, really like what they were able to do with that character, and just that movie in general took that character to a different length. And, made him serious. It's what I say can happen with Superman. Like, he still has the Boy Scout ideals, but he can kick your ass sometimes. That's kind of what a superhero should be.
Absolutely.
So, I'm going to go with probably my favorite X-Men scene.
Okay.
And this is from
X-Men, so it's all yours.
This is from X-Men First Class in 2011, where Magneto chooses to go heal. I think the scene in which, you have Shaw there, played by Kevin Bacon, who's tortured this kid through the Holocaust. I forget the actor who plays Magneto right now.
Michael Fassbender.
There you go. Michael Fassbender has been on a blood-fueled revenge quest to get up to Shaw and kill this man. Shaw wants to start the next war by having Russia and the United States bomb themselves to, oblivion.
Into a nuclear holocaust.
Right, and then more mutants will be born because they will be children of the atom or something like that.
Isn't that the title of one of the books?
That's definitely one of the games, the Children of the Atom. And I remember, you have the scene where Shaw is there basically intimidating Magneto, and Magneto's basically helpless, and he's able to pull the helmet away from Shaw. So him working in tandem with Professor X freezes Shaw in place so that Magneto can get the helmet and subdue Shaw.
Yes.
This is the whole plan. You have to subdue Shaw.
Take him in, he's gonna face justice.
That's what happens. Justice never vengeance. Justice never vengeance unless you're Magneto, who puts on the helmet that basically is his helmet. The helmet that is iconic to him as a character. That score starts to come in. That din din, din din, din din, din din, and the man sends a coin. He presses a coin with enough pressure to go through a man's scalp, causing Charles can't let go of his his psychic connection to Shaw, because then Shaw's gonna, I guess, scream or bug out. Maybe
Yeah.
blood goes all over the place. Like, he has to hold this guy in place as this happens.
But which means he also has to feel a little bit of it.
Exactly, and he's screaming. So in that moment there, I thought it was great because it was the severing of Charles and Magneto in that moment. But then you also get the severing when they try to shoot Magneto, and he sends one of the bullets into Charles' spine, and it severs all the nerves to his legs.
Lots of severings.
There was definitely like a metaphorical severing and then a literal severing there. But in between those two moments, what also was great was that now they're like, oh crap, so there's just mutants on that island, let's just bomb the island. So the Russians and the Americans decide to send nukes to the island to just bomb just the mutants. Oh, open and shut case, they'll all be done. And Magneto takes all the nukes and turns them in direction back towards whoever sent them, their countries. And doing one of the best villain monologues of all time of like, you think that you have all the power and yada yada yada, you think you could just come and do whatever you please. Oh, great moment. There's a lot of good Magneto moments, but I feel like our Magneto from the original trilogy reminds me a lot of Darth Vader, where he had a lot of cool swag, but he was too old to actually do things. So I want to say that Fassbender in that moment was like, okay, we got a new one now. I'll say this
though. For me, they had an easier job in the sense that Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart were already able to work off their own chemistry because they were already good friends in real life.
Yeah.
So, like, the chemistry that Professor X and Magneto are supposed to have as sort of lifelong friends is already there. Yeah. They just have to play the rest of it.
It's true.
So, they work themselves into an easy get there.
And it was cool that they were able to explore how they get there, or how they eventually started, that where they were on the same page. There was a time period where they were on the same page, they were part of the same team. And the fact that this was a definitive choice of Magneto's.
Yes.
In both instances. Even when Charles gets shot, he's all like, oh, my bad, by the way, I'm leaving. Like he that's when he severs. And it defines the Magneto for the rest of the films, because it's this Magneto, the Magneto who made this choice in this moment.
I definitely think the Singerverse will deserve its own episode sometime.
One day. I don't know. He's kind of in some Me Too movements.
Oh no, I'm not about Singer, but like that's what I call that entire Sony X-Men.
Oh run. Yeah, right, yeah. Oh, the time. We'll do the timeline. That'll be a 5-hour episode. We'll do the timeline.
No, not the timeline.
Iron
Jesus
that
Christ.
out. Get everybody on the same page with that.
No.
What do you got? What do you got for your number 4?
Okay, so number 4 for me was there's rarely a time in my life where I can say that I heard an entire theater sort of get up and applaud at a scene. For me, I actually had that experience some time ago in a movie we somewhat discussed earlier, which was Spider-Man: Homecoming, which I have titled as my number 4. Come on, Spider-Man. The scene inside the warehouse where he's trapped under just pounds and pounds, maybe even tons of concrete and steel beams, and is trying to lift himself up, looking at like the reflection of himself in the water. He's like, "Come on, Peter Parker."
Yeah.
Come on, Spider-Man.
You also get that Simba looking in the water, remember who you are kind of moment. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's also one of the rare scenes where it's like there's no incumbent like rising music to it or anything. It is stuck in the solitude of that moment and being trapped in this empty space.
Like you wouldn't, like there would be no sound.
There
you would just
nothing.
be there. You would die with no fanfare. Like all that stuff will crush you, and they would literally, no one would know about it until they pulled it out
into silence until they, started going through the wreckage.
Yeah, and he had gotten his suit taken away, so he's dealing with the regular hoodie.
And like as he starts to pick it up and just says, "Come on, Spider-Man," and like I can hear the people behind me just get up and start clapping. I was just like,
they wanted him to come on too. They're like, "Come on, Spider-Man!"
Like this is really, and like I felt it, and it resonated so deeply with me. As someone who didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed in the Tobey Maguire films, that scene stands out in an incredible way.
Yeah.
to me. Like I was like, okay, I am behind this Tom Holland kid.
Yeah.
I
And like I said,
appreciate
very
that.
reminiscent from the comics. It's a very iconic comic panel that shows him doing the same thing where he's
Yes,
lifting,
which I did not realize till later, actually.
which is good. Like I said, it's their job to educate us before that we know that they're educating us, right? That's how
Right.
cool learning is done. So I'm glad they're able to do some real big things with Spider-Man because we thought we've seen everything. We have seen a whole bunch of movies. We've seen
Oh
five
yes.
movies before this happened. So the fact that they're able to do something new and still pull from history, I thought was really really cool.
Yes.
I'm going to go with the choice that knocked the airport battle out of contention.
Okay.
I figure that that's only fair, and that is the Battle of Wakanda. The Battle of Wakanda in Avengers: Infinity War is probably one of the greatest things. Now, we can only do one from one movie, right? So I was sitting between this and the Battle on Titan because the Battle on Titan has some of the best special effects with like the stuff that Doctor Strange does
Yes.
with Thanos.
Turns a blast into like doves.
Butterflies or something like that. You have doves. All that stuff was incredible. But I think what weighs the Wakandan stuff more is the fact that everyone got to fight at the same time. They weren't like trying to fight the same person. Like those hordes of mindless, whatever the heck they were.
Right.
I think they called it mindless or something like that. These hordes of
the mindless ones are like a Dormammu thing.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a Dormammu thing. But I had the name for these creatures,
Right.
but they Thanos' army, ravaging through everybody, seeing the scary parts of like Cap is way in over his head.
Mm-hmm.
The Hulkbuster is down.
They are very much losing this fight.
There's a lot of points in the fight where you're just like, this is not gonna end the way it's supposed to. I think Bucky at one point there's just too many on him, and then Thor shows up. Coming from Native Villiers with Stormbreaker, with the Groot, and with Rocket, and
So what's this number for you?
This is 3, but that's only because my original 3 was the Captain America elevator scene.
We have what I said. Bring me Thanos at number 3. We both do. We both have this scene at number 3.
So yeah, it's the idea that bring me Thanos. He's smashing through. On our Infinity War review, I say that he's one of the MVPs as well with Doctor Strange.
Right,
Smashes through countless ships by himself. Takes out so many people, and then you get Thanos shows up. Vision gets stabbed about 20 more times. That's what he does. He's a damn pincushion in that movie. I don't understand why, but Vision, saves Captain America's life, and then Thanos just comes, which then leads to the snap heard around the world, which ultimately that's what won it over not only the Titan battle, but the airport scene.
Right.
But y'all want to talk about steaks? There's your damn steaks. There's all the steaks. Get your A1, get your steak sauce, because you got steaks on the menu.
You got Texas steaks, you got Alabama steaks, you got
They're
Florida
all
steaks.
there. They're all there watching, Steve, and then disappearing and all that stuff. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Amazing. The most unique theater going.
This is no place to die.
Oh, terrible. It is the most unique theater experience I've ever had for a particular scene, especially in a comic book movie.
You ever see characters so lost?
People lost.
Who
People were like, who do we pray to now? I'm like, there's a lot going on.
I think it was War Machine where he was just like, Cap, what just happened? And Cap's like,
oh, my favorite is Okoye,
I keep
who
waiting
can't
for
even
him to have a line, and he's like,
he says, "Oh God," oh God.
Yeah.
Okoye too. The look on her face when T'Challa goes, she is completely petrified.
Like she had a hand on him, and it was gone.
I also want to think that she's also more petrified because they live in a more like ritualistic society. So like she probably believes in like spirits and all that kind of stuff. Like
much bigger for
what
her.
is going on here? But the man won the Battle of Wakanda,
especially for Okoye, who's like. She's killed several people.
Yeah, so
this was something different.
Death and not even battle are things that scare her.
Right.
We've seen this in that scene where they're all lined up ready to take on this army.
This isn't a battle stabbed by a sheath or a sword or whatnot. This was something bigger, something spiritual.
Definitely.
For me, it was also a common thing people like to say is that I've seen at least as far as it involved actors is this thing called superhero redemption.
Okay.
We've got the many failures of Johnny Storm, in which both Chris Evans and Michael B. Jordan have come out the other side of it, with Killmonger and Captain America.
Yep. Yeah.
Uh,
Lawrence Fishburne left being Perry White so he could be Goliath.
right.
So there's that.
Right.
Ryan
Although
Reynolds.
he was the Silver Surfer.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
So maybe that's also redemption.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
true. Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. He was also in Blade, and he does
Right.
Green Lantern.
For me, this was superhero redemption on a different sense, or at least on a character sense.
Okay.
I came out of Thor Ragnarok really kind of hurting
I feel
for
you.
Thor.
I did have a less than stellar reaction. I remember leaving it going like I don't really know how to feel. I don't know how to feel.
I walked out of it saying, okay, this was all really funny, but they made one of my favorite characters a steaming buffoon.
Yeah.
So like this was Thor getting his energy back from me.
Right.
So like when he just screams out, "Bring me Thanos," and just jumps up into the air. If you were in the theater with me, you would have heard me just scream, Stormbreaker, as he hits the ground.
And he also lands what would supposedly be the killing blow. Right when he has all the and Stormbreaker breaks through the beam of all.
Stormbreaker, it wins the beam battle, the beam struggle, with the Infinity Stone. I'm assuming it's the Power Stone. That seems to be the thing he uses the most.
Yeah.
But like the power of an Infinity Stone could not stop Stormbreaker, which is like.
Yeah. I thought that was freaking huge. Do you have something to sub up your number 3?
No need for substitutions with that. I think that's kind of interesting in itself. We both picked that one for number 3.
That's amazing.
What is your number 2, sir?
So my number 2 was also something I think that was taken. So I'm going to put my number 2 as Superman Around the World, 1978. Now, there is a great reason for this.
Excuse me while I just walk out.
There's a great there's a great reason for this. I argue, sir, that there is not a scene more iconic to Superman than him flying backwards and turning back time. Now, are there better scenes? There definitely are better scenes, and I think that you might have yours. I'm guessing at the top because we're at number 2 now, and I chose not to speak on Man of Steel for a reason. But watching Superman turn back time in 1978 as Christopher Reeves is a hallmark moment, not only for superhero movies as far as like the capabilities of what these characters can do. Because guess what? Luke Skywalker ain't turning the world around. You know what I'm saying? That ain't happening. Poltergeist, Freddy Krueger, none of these guys are doing that. You know what I'm saying? We got Superman. He turns back time to save Lois Lane, Margot Kidder, rest her soul.
Turn back
He starts that. That's now all in the rave. I mean, it's all the craze. Now you got Deadpool doing it. They do it in Teen Titans. Like this is the thing. But the first person to do it was Superman. Should he have done it? Would the world have survived? Those are questions for a different list. What I'm saying here, rule of cool applies. You take your suspension of disbelief. When that happened, when you were a young kid, all you knew was that Superman, if he wanted to, could turn back time by flying backwards. He's literally never done it ever in comics. And this is only ever done in this film. Never done again in film. But that's why I think it's one of the greatest moments.
Pull off his S and throw this really awkward film.
Yeah, like cellophane, like some kind of cellophane trap or something.
Oh my god!
But Superman, I'm telling you, Superman 78,
All
Superman
right.
flies
All right.
around the world. That's my number 2 moment.
I'll give you this. I thought we almost did it again, and then you freaking swerved me on that.
Oh, that's what I do. That's what we're here for.
Good lord. Okay, so my number 2 is similar. My number 2, though, is the one you've been waiting to hear about, which is Man of Steel, which is First Flight.
Yes.
Which is the amazing Hans Zimmer score setting the stage for Superman finally, the actualized Superman finally emerging from his fortress in the suit and gives it a first try, stumbles a bit, and just hears the words that were said to him in his head and focuses all his energy and just shoots up into the sky. And it's the most amazing moment for me because you can see the look on his face
Yeah.
He is a child in that moment. It's just like, holy crap, I'm flying through the air. This is amazing.
They also have the confidence to let that scene play out.
Yes.
You know, the
It would have been
scene.
real easy to just have him shoot right out the door.
Yeah. The scene. You know, or they could have done a lot of heavy narration, like over the back or the
Right.
back of it, or whatever. But the fact that they let it play out, you get to see. It's one of the most human moments of in Superman history. Not even
Right.
Man of Steel, in Superman history. And I would say that probably now to some may eclipse my moment, but it's about the flight, bro. It's about watching the guy take off at tremendous speeds. That's what people want to see.
You
People want to
believe a
see.
man can fly.
People want to see the man fly. You're a big Man of Steel
Just
fan.
goes
Do you
into
think that's the
space.
best? Do you think that's the best moment of Man of Steel? Did you pick that as the best moment of Man of Steel?
As a moment, yes, I'd say so. Like, at a close second would be the fight, but I think as a pure, just sort of, rewatchable and happy moment, it would be that one.
Okay, I could dig that. I could definitely dig that.
The fight comes in a close second, though, but that's just a great moment as a fan who just likes watching action and
Right.
punching and things destroyed.
That Superman around the world moment was my number one. But I'm
Really?
actually missing one. Yeah, because we had two that were the same. We had the Wakanda battle, and we had the elevator for Cap.
Well, I mean,
So-
that
so-
just means you got to 10 a little faster.
Yes. So I will just say that I guess. Oh well, then if I'm gonna do my number one off my top of my head, I will say Tony Stark sacrificing himself with the nuke. Even though I guess he didn't sacrifice himself, but Tony Stark choosing to send the nuke into
Okay.
outer space at the end of that fight of New York. First of all, the fight in New York it can win on its own.
Sure.
But I also feel like there's a lot of that's nothing.
Right.
Is that wrong to say? Am I gonna get?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But
I feel
no,
like
finish your point.
there's a lot of that that's just like set piece stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and you don't know any
it's
of
a
these
great
people.
fun fight, and
Yes.
there's a lot going on, you know.
But there's not really
that
emotional.
cute little moment where like Hawkeye makes the most impossible bow shot
Oh, he's
ever.
not even looking half
and
the time.
Loki's just kind of like, they shot an arrow at me. Boom.
Yeah, he's not even looking half the time. You got the Thor stuff. I mean, the Hulk stuff with
Yes.
Smash, and I'm always angry and puny God. You know, but it's the Iron Man stuff because he's probably the person, like I said before, with the the most over his own head in this, and doesn't really know what to do, and just made an executive decision that I'm just gonna take this thing to space, and could have died and almost died. And I thought that set a good precedent for the amount of stakes that they should have in these Avengers films.
So see, here's my number one. It is the one particular moment in there.
Okay.
My number one is just what I simply said was Avengers Assemble,
Okay.
which is the big circular shot
I was thinking that as well. Yeah.
of all of them. That was the moment where it's just like, this thing worked.
Yeah.
We invested in this gimmick and it worked.
Yeah.
We put out about a good, 4 or 5 movies.
This is what this looks like. This is what the final product of
And
all your money and all of our money
you
and
stuck
time
with us on this
and
ride.
story and
and then we
effort.
gave you this big collaborated film, and like this worked. And like the theme song that has stuck with them since then,
Yeah.
that plays over it. Like you get all your characters standing together, fighting for New York City. Captain America, the Hulk, Iron Man, Black Widow, who was the most ill-equipped person to be in that thing.
She has
She's
guns.
just like, I have gun.
He's like, yeah, it's like I have guns and they have limited bullets, so this is not going to be.
But I
not
guess
gonna-
Hawkeye, I have bow.
Yeah, that's all they got. But they were part of the team and they showed them to be like worthy members of the
When
team.
I went to the big like Infinity War marathon event, when they played Avengers, like everyone kind of just got up for that scene again.
Yeah.
It is.
It reminds you how you felt the first time you saw that
Yeah.
all come together, and it was something you had only seen before in books or in animated shows.
Here we are for the third movie, and probably the one thing that this whole thing has been building up to for this entire time. Which, by the way, was apparently a mistake.
And that film and that thing, break $1 billion. That film in that moment break $1 billion.
Right.
It set the standard for what we get now in the MCU. Just
Do you know what I mean by
Greatness.
that?
by the
The mistake.
I do not know the mistake.
Supposedly, there was never like a Thanos plan.
Huh.
But Joss Whedon just like threw in this thing at the end where it's just like, we'll just have Thanos just looking at the Earth.
Well, I guess that's why it kind of gets confusing with the whole "I'll do it myself" stuff, and
Yeah.
then also they did like to fight them would be to court death,
Yes.
which is like
Which really makes you think they're going that whole,
the whole
like
death
Infinity
route, yeah.
Gauntlet route where like there's a death and I'm going to hit on her incessantly.
yeah,
while
and just
she,
keep killing fools
you know,
until she
just
respects
friend
me.
zones me or whatever.
That's the most like.
And then by the time they've actually started to make Thanos a character, we're just like, we're not doing that. Stop
He's
it.
stepping on his own toes there. He's just like, I'm just gonna keep killing people till you love me. That's a pretty bold statement there to make. Yeah, I mean, Avengers is the be all and end all right now. It is one of those measuring sticks
Yes.
in the medium right now of a point you
I
have to
cannot
hit.
think of any scene that is more intrinsically like important to the superhero genre than that moment. If that moment doesn't work, it's WrestleMania 1. If that moment doesn't work, this whole thing falls apart.
That's true, because people are still playing catch up to that moment. They
Yeah.
want that moment, and we've seen that moment try to get replicated in other Justice League, other films, and it doesn't work as well because you didn't do the homework. You didn't let us be invested,
Not at all.
and so then it kind of takes away.
And what Sony tried to build up to that moment with their little monster thing with the Dark Universe, and it fell flat on its face.
Yes, it did.
After the Mummy, and what else? Sony's gonna try to do their little Spider-Verse thing, and it's probably gonna fall flat on its face because they don't know how to do it.
Come on, Sony, figure it out. And then don't forget their Morbius movie. That's sure to have some top 10 comic book moments in it, right?
Ugh.
Your favorite Morbius? Everyone's
10
everyone's
moments.
favorite Morbius?
Top 10 moments to laugh at.
By the way, he's supposed to be played by Jared Leto, so that's gonna be fun.
Ugh.
More used condoms for
Oh
everyone.
God!
It's method acting. It's
No, he's just gonna say
method.
he's gonna go on Amazon and send everyone packs of True Blood.
You got nothing from BVS, bro. Where's your BVS moments at? No.
I couldn't think of too many actual like really great cinematic moments from BVS. Everything that I kind of enjoy about BVS is thematic,
Okay.
and even some of the thematics fail because of certain missteps.
I can see that. I thought instantly.
I considered the Wonder Woman scene, but like the Wonder Woman scene in her own film made more sense to me than her appearing at the end.
Yeah.
And like even though it's the Trinity thing, it wasn't as good as it could have been.
Not to take it off subject, but they're gonna have to explain in this next Wonder Woman why she chose to be away from man this whole time, right? Because at the end of Wonder Woman 1, she was fine.
I feel like they kind of retconned it at this point.
Did they? Because in BVS, she wants nothing to do with that fight or any of that.
There's supposed to be a point in her life where she becomes disenfranchised with the whole thing.
Right. So I'm guessing we're gonna have to kind of maybe get that, or maybe like you said, it might have just been completely retconned.
Yeah. I think mistakes were made.
With the best of the best, with the best of the best being out here, we've done our top 10. Is there any rapid fire moments that have crossed your mind since this conversation that you wish to speak about?
Well, like I said, the Trinity moment, at least for a few fleeting seconds, is really cool.
Yeah, that slow motion of just seeing them all three there was pretty cool.
Yeah, and like Wonder Woman, almost by herself, kind of like doing her best to take it to Doomsday.
The Batman vs Superman
I do
fight,
love this one particular scene where she gets knocked like
she
3
smiles.
miles away.
Yeah.
She just looks up and smiles. It's
Yeah.
just like, ooh, I haven't seen a fight in ages.
No, then she does like this weird thing with her head where she's like, "Oh, okay, all
Like,
right,
all right.
this is what we're doing. Okay,
We're back in it.
let's get it."
I think I'm loose now. Let's keep going.
I'm trying to
The
think.
Batman v Superman fight is fun for what it is. I don't know
think
why
it's
people
fun.
expect it to be longer. Like how much?
Yeah, a lot of people talking about what the heck? They only
Like,
fought for
how
this
long was?
I
Bat
guess
supposed to
I
survive
guess
that
it's just
fight?
because of the name of the movie. Like you should never call a movie something like that. I feel like
No,
it sets
not at
it sets a weird expectation.
But see, that was one thing that happened with like it happens with things like Avengers and Justice League and whatnot, where it's okay. This is the Avengers. I'm coming to this movie to see the Avengers. The first half of the movie is setting up the Avengers
It's very true.
and getting them to get along so they can be the Avengers in the last 20 minutes.
That's Dan the Common Man's big problem with Avengers. He actually likes Avengers 2 more than Avengers 1 because he says that Avengers 2 gets off right where like where from the beginning to the end of that film, it's an Avengers film.
I see where he gets that from because I said that about the Thor movies.
Okay.
I
With 2?
I like Thor 2 better than Thor 1 because he's Thor the entire film. And he's Thor on Asgard and Thor in his regalia and Thor, everywhere else. Whereas the first movie, it's like he's Thor for a little bit, then he gets his powers taken away, then he gets them right back at the end.
Yeah.
So you mostly get Donald Blake.
But I do really, really, really like the unworthy scene from that film.
I get that too.
Where he's ripping off the parts of his armor and sends him to Earth. You are unworthy.
Yes, that is a good scene.
Anthony,
I strip you of your right.
Anthony Hopkins, he killed it in that. I also found that when I was thinking about the best of the best, I found my eyes and my mind going a lot to TV.
Okay.
And I had to scratch a lot of that out.
Yeah, I understand.
Like we were talking about, I like TV Wilson Fisk more than I like movie Wilson Fisk,
right?
And I like TV Flash more than I like movie Flash. So a lot of the times that I would think that I was writing a moment that I liked, in actuality there was something else in television or comics that I was thinking of that wasn't really a movie thing.
I found myself having to fight over a few scenes, like for we both sort of picked the shield moment in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
I found myself briefly fighting over using that or using the moment with Cap and Bucky on top of the falling airship.
Yeah, I thought about that.
I'm with you to the end of the line.
He puts the shield down, and I think also right up there,
right? Because that's a powerful freaking moment where he's just like, I'm not gonna keep punching you, Bucky.
He's wearing his old Captain America
gear. This is how it ends. Fine.
He's wearing his old Cap gear from Cap 1.
Right.
So it's really, really poetic, and
which he doesn't even, isn't something he ever plans, but it's something Bucky would recognize more than anything else, which just adds to the entire thing.
Yeah.
Now it's like Bucky, they're literally facing their own histories down now.
Yeah. I would also put on that from that film the highway scene that eventually leads to the Who the Hell is Bucky scene.
Yes.
Which is really, really, really good. Though that knife battle is amazing. That stuff
I haven't seen a knife fight that good since Steven Seagal and Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, it's great. But no Marthas, no back credit cards on this list.
No.
We're not doing any...
by the way, Sebastian Stan says that is his favorite line in all the movies he's done.
Oh, yeah, Who the Hell is Bucky? Right?
Who the hell is Bucky?
I see that you didn't put no My Name is Trevor from Iron Man 3 on there.
Jesus,
There's no Where's My Bird?
I thought about putting I Am Iron Man. But
that's a big moment.
I realized, though, it was a moment that did not mean as much to me as it meant to the lexicon.
Yeah, it's definitely a big moment. I almost put Tobey Maguire drawing out his suit and getting the beginnings of that done, because that was also the beginnings of us seeing somebody actually go through phases of how do I want to do this, which I thought was pretty cool. But
that's one of those things also where as far as the movies can go, you could argumentatively put down the first great power, great responsibility moment, because it works just fine.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not nearly as effective and as iconic as the upside down kiss between Mary Jane and Spider-Man.
He was also kind of being pissy in that moment too. He was I don't care about your damn talk. I'm going to this pro wrestling library that I'm gonna
17-year-old
that I have to do.
What 17-year-old, 18-year-old isn't?
And then there's also the idea that there are bad movies, or seemingly bad or maligned movies, with great moments. I speak of the moment where Johnny Quick is trying to chase down the Silver Surfer in Fantastic Four 2: Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Johnny Quick.
Does it Johnny Quick? Johnny Storm. Johnny Storm. I got Flash on the mind. Johnny Storm. And Surfer's going on these incredible speeds, and so is Storm. Evans is going to give his all in whatever he's doing. So even when he was doing that, he wasn't a bad Johnny Storm.
No.
And so you have this chase, and Quicksilver. Look at me. Silver Surfer is phasing through all these kinds of buildings and trains, and Johnny Storm is doing his best to try to chase up after him. Really cinematic, very comic booky. And then when he gets the closest to him, Surfer just turns around, grabs him by his throat, flies into space, and lets him off. Just let's go, and basically to his death. Really, really crazy, really, really good. I also like the moment from Amazing Spider-Man 2, where the moment people talk about all the time, the ending with the Rhino, because to me, that was very comic booky. I understand people's issue with Rhino should have probably been more in it or something like that. But it's very comic booky for you to um, start back with the status quo. Like, regardless of what's going on, regardless of the big bad we just beat. Yeah, we
Right.
just beat Electro. Yeah, we just beat the Green Goblin. Yeah, Gwen Stacy just died. But we have to get it back to friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And we got friendly with him talking to a child
Right.
dressed like Spider-Man. We got neighborhood because he's in New York on top of a NYPD cop car with a bullhorn. I thought that the design of the Rhino was cool, considering that ours was what spandex and just like a regular horn. He had like a legit rhino's eyes
Yeah.
on the top of it. Very weird stuff.
How did you feel about the Gwen Stacy scene at the end there?
I liked it, but it's not one of my favorites.
No?
I don't think about it when I think of like great moments, and I don't know why.
Even
Maybe
like because that's one of those pulled right out the book things. And
yeah. I just felt
I think it's tough because you go in knowing that Gwen Stacy never makes it out of this,
that's also one.
unless you're not.
It's a Titanic thing. Like
Yeah,
you know it's gonna
like
hit
the
the
ship
iceberg.
sinks.
Right. And I also
So
think
like unless you weren't a fan of the of Spider-Man or don't know anything about his history, like you kind of go in just like, yeah, Gwen dies at some point. There's no way out of this.
and although she's a little bit more, inept than Mary Jane was in her films, this is still the fifth Spider-Man film in a row where the love interest is the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
So there's only so many times you could dangle that threat before when it happens you're like, oh, okay, well,
Right.
that's what you've been trying to do for for 5 movies. You were trying to kill this woman, and now she's dead. So, like, mission accomplished. I thought that was good. Anything from any good movies from good moments from bad movies you can think of?
Let me see.
You got anything from Suicide Squad?
Christ, no.
No. What about
I have an appreciation for a lot of the scenes in Justice League. Like, I kind of like the little moment where like Flash has that Sistine Chapel moment with the sword.
Yeah.
It just
My
got
Justice League
decent.
moment was probably when Superman saw Flash running. When
Okay.
he turns his head and he can see him, and Flash is like, "Oh my God, he can see me!" And I thought that was
Yeah,
really,
that was a really cool moment too.
I don't even feel like Bats had much to do in that either, though.
I mean, he doesn't, but I think he has that one moment where he gets to save one of the other guys, and it's just like, yep, my turn now.
I forgot who actually said it. I
A
think it
lot
was
of
in
great
movie.
Aquaman moments.
Oh yeah.
Aqua,
Dressed like a bat.
Bro is just having the time of his life.
Dressed like a bat. I dig it. I like all that stuff. Ride ain't over yet with Cyborg.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. But I forget who says it.
Yeah.
I think it was.
No.
I think it was like a philosopher. Maybe it was in a movie. But the idea that life in general is just made up of these moments. These moments that we
Sure.
hop to. These moments that we navigate through, and man, we've been lucky to have some great moments in comic book movie history.
And hopefully we will continue to have more to the point where I have to revise this here and there list.
Well, what I'm finding is that the more that they choose to go balls to the wall,
Mhm.
a lot of our choices are literally like extremes of this genre.
Right.
And the fact that they're able to get there more often now than they were before is giving them more moments now. We've spoken more about post Spider-Man, X-Men, that kind of thing. Like in
Yes.
this new millennium
Mhm.
than we have previous, and I think that's a good sign. I'm hoping.
Yeah,
People
we're
talk about
we're on a good track here.
superhero fatigue, but they keep giving me these moments. I'm going to see every single film.
I
that
don't
they have.
I don't know if the I don't know if it's as long as they keep having people tell good stories, if the bubble actually bursts.
Right.
I do think that there will be a point where there will be fatigue in the concept of having to keep up with them.
Yeah, I can see that.
In the idea of like the connected universe, and it's like, well, do I have to watch this to understand it, or do I have to watch this other film?
Especially if we get more than like our regular allotted. Like we're up to like 3
Yeah.
MCU movies a year.
Yes.
Sometimes 2 DCU. If that increases, I could see that getting
Right.
very like every month. In addition to this, that now has to be dissected and figured out where they're gonna go, and then you doing the same thing next month. It is definitely a lot. Yogi had, I think, one of his favorite moments was the Zod fight, like you were saying, mentioning,
Yes.
and I think we have to mention just the craziness that was that. Now, casualties aside, right? Collateral damage aside,
Yeah, because
We've never seen a
they've never
superhero.
done that with Superman before.
We've never seen a Superman fan like a fight like that. We've actually got to see him kind of let loose when he thinks that the world is being threatened. We see him take out the terraformer, which was amazing.
That's like what else would a battle of godlike men look like
Yep.
except the way it
And it
say
should
what
be.
you
It
want
kind of should
about-
be scary, right? It should be
say,
scary.
Yeah, say what you want about the amount of damage that was done. If that amount of damage wasn't like, what scale did you want two Kryptonians fighting on the planet on?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's this isn't like Dragon Ball Z where you can just. This was the comparison I always heard. Well, at least Goku or whatever would take the villain to like some deserted place. I was like, why would he follow him?
Yes, exactly. That's one thing. And two, Dragon Ball Z seems to be covered in deserted places.
Right.
And it's not like but you've seen Cell
miles
and them.
of desert land.
But you've seen Cell and the androids destroy whole
Cities.
blocks and whole cities like that.
Yeah.
That's still very much a thing.
So like no, that's what two gods fighting in a big city metropolis literally would look like.
And Zod, played by Michael Shannon, he's basically a bubbling pot of potential energy because he's just gotten all these powers. He's just dealing with the increased strength, the heat vision, all that kind of stuff, and you get to see that all unfold. So that needs to be.
And he
spoken
already
of.
walked in with the skill of a soldier.
That definitely needs to be spoken of. And S equals hope isn't that bad of a scene,
No, not at all. Not at all.
S.
It was
That's
cute.
what it says. The S stands for hope.
Yes.
But we stand for great moments like this, and like I said, hopefully we'll be getting some good moments in the future. This has also led me to believe that probably down the line we'll maybe be doing a top 10 worst comic book movie moments, because I think that list will also be not only entertaining, but I think we'll get to it pretty quickly.
I may have to watch some stuff I didn't want to.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get. Remember that Captain America movie we saw? That thing was terrible.
Uh-huh.
But if you want to see our review or listen to our review of our Captain America 1990, we watched that terrible, terrible film, and we reviewed it, me and GT Rebirth. Or if you want to listen to any of our other movie, TV, or comic book reviews, all you have to do is look for the Major Issues podcast wherever podcasts are found. That's Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict. You got Apple Podcasts, I believe is an app for that. Wherever podcasts are found, if you have a regular Android phone, you can Google Major Issues Podcast from your phone or computer, and we'll be the first thing to pop up. Just like, share, and subscribe. Spread the message, spread the word about what we're doing here at Major Issues. Grow the audience, and if you can, like I said, like, share, and subscribe, but also rate and review. We need some more reviews. We've gotten some ratings, some 5 stars, so that's definitely good, and our audience is growing exponentially because of you guys, which is amazing. I always said, I've been to the future. It was once, but I was there. And I know that Comic Book Clique and Major Issues become the latest and greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media. But it's going to take your help to get there. So keep liking, sharing, and subscribing. Keep rating and reviewing. And I promise you that we'll be here every single week. We still haven't missed one. Knock on.
Still haven't.
Knock on particle wood.
Also,
But-
once again, we have various amounts of social media that you can connect with us on if you'd like to. I just opened up an account for us here for Rebirth GT. That would be mine.
Yeah,
we have the Major Issues CBC Twitter.
Yeah, we got 2 Twitters right there. If you guys want to reach us on Twitter, ask us questions, or tell us what your top 10 moments are. You can also go to
If
Facebook.
you want us to do riff tracks, I'm trying to talk them into it. We can just
I think we can do
sit
it.
through Doctor Strange and hear us react to it live.
Oh, I dig it. We totally got to do it. And we're going to do an unboxing soon. We might be doing an unboxing next week, so that's going to be cool. But if you want to catch the stuff that's not podcast related about Comic Book Clique, all you have to do is go to facebook.com/comicbookclique, Instagram @comicbookclique, or use the hashtag comicbookclique to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. Keep building up these moments. Keep building up the clique and help us get to be what I know we can be, because we are going to be the greatest of all time. We're going to be in the top 10 of something. Some list. Somebody's making a list, and we're on it somewhere.
We're gonna be on a Watch Mojo list somewhere.
I don't need to be an honorable mention, right? I'm trying to be the Bring Me Thanos of podcasts. If we could just if we could be the Avengers Assemble moment of podcasts, that's all. Is that too much to ask?
No,
I don't
I
think
don't. I
it's.
don't think it is at all. I don't think it is at all. Like, eventually, we'll have our own, like, Comic-Con booth and everything.
Oh, that would be amazing. I dig that. Oh, we're going to Comic Con this year. The guys of CBC, the guys of Comic Book Clique will be going to Comic Con this year. Just stay tuned to everything that we announce on all our social media platforms to be a part of it all. But my name is George Serrano, aka The Don.
My name is Gregory Thomas, aka GT Rebirth.
And this has been the top 10 greatest moment from comic book movies in history. And whether or not you have your art reactor ripped out of your chest, whether the snap heard around the world took away 50% of your friends, whether your mother's name is Martha, or whether you have a back credit card, remember that we are the Clique, and you, yes, you, are worthy.